is devoted to the problems of theoretical phonetics today. Just I will maybe settle my window in order I could see better. Well, so, and glad to see you here. In any case, all the students will be able to watch the video using YouTube. And now we are going to start the second lecture. Sorry, I can't see it. Well, so here it is. Phonetics is a branch of linguistics today. Also, after the lecture, we have the workshop. So be ready to participate. We will work on the issues of the first lecture. And now we are moving to our material. So before that, you can take a cup of your favorite drink and we are going to start. So today we are discussing phonetics as a branch of linguistics and phonetics and phonology, because we have different terms and we should be able to differentiate their meaning and the piece of information covered by this or that discipline, and also their purposes, objects, units, and so on. Well, so certainly we will work on typology of the vowel systems, different languages generally, and English language in particular, typology of the consonant systems certainly, because as you know, vowels and consonants, these are the main, I suppose you know, or maybe if not, then today you should be aware of the fact that these two systems are the most important in making the face of any language sound face. Well, then articulatory transition in English speech, different processes which influence our speech and characterize phonetics and phonology. Well, the syllables in English, certainly because these units are considered to be the next after phonemes, and word stress and utterance stress as parts or maybe contours of our speech, and aspects which characterize greatly different languages and English as well. And English and intonation, complexes different of intonation, or maybe patterns, it is better to mention, usually mentioned in different literatures, and approaches to intonational system description. Okay, so we shall start with the very important term. It is the sound. So while speaking about speech sounds, usually we try to differentiate which part of linguistic studies speech sounds, so phones, and what's the difference between them. And here it is the answer, that generally when we concern any sound, it is about the discipline phonetics. And it differs from phonology, which we should describe today also. But before that, let's speak about phonetics. So the phonetics as the discipline, not only linguistic, but also with reference to any sounds existing and perceived by our ears, it answers several questions, maybe not several, but the most important ones. How are speech sounds made? How does sound travel through the air? How is it registered by ears? How can we measure speech? Well, and the answers lie in the table, which I've prepared for you in order maybe to clearer perceive the material, and maybe in such a brisk manner in infographics it's easier. And so here are the answers. Here it is that phonetics deals with place and manner of articulation of any sound. If it is about speech, certainly, because not all sounds are articulated. acoustic phonetics deals with different sounds existing. IPA transcription, it is about linguistics. Certainly, directly we can send during our course that part of material. Which is covered by phonetics, and suprasegmentals also partially we speak about here. Certainly these all aspects, they cover larger pieces of study, information and units, but those which are within our course we will discuss today. Well, so let's start with the very term of the sound. So what is it? What is the sound? How are sounds produced? Certainly when we speak about our organs and when we speak about speech directly, in particular, not any sound existing in the world, so then we speak about the vocal tract. And as you can see from the picture, it is quite complicated organs, yeah, maybe participating in the system of organs, participating in sound producing. And if to speak about the sound in this respect, then we speak about vibrating air within this vocal tract. And so speaking means using your vocal tract, lungs, trachea, larynx, mouth, and nose to get air moving and vibrating. So most pitch sounds made with air exiting the lungs. Speech begins with breath. In this case, we speak about aggressive pulmonic sound. So most languages have such sound, but also in some languages we can describe or can come across aggressive pulmonic sounds, such as clicks, implosives. So specifically in African countries, we can find some examples of such sounds. Well, so now if you have a look at that complicated system of organs participating in sound formation, you can understand that, yeah, really, phonetics deals not only with the sound, but also with physiology. We should know quite well physiology in order to understand how the sounds are produced, the manner they are produced, the way they are produced, the position they are produced, and many other details and aspects which we take into consideration as specialists while describing one separate sound, speech sound in our case. Well, so vocal tract, and we shall start with the at the top of the trachea is larynx. Here it is, you can see. Yeah, and inside the larynx there are two folds of soft tissue, vocal cords. Here it is, you can see. Sorry, any problem? So you can write into the chat if you have any problems. Yeah, because maybe so the internet connection can be not high. Okay. So write please into the chat because I can't hear you well and wouldn't like to maybe distract from the lecture. And so during the seminar we can discuss different questions, and you can put some put down into the chat, okay, your question or whatever, your comment. Well, so and then so these vocal cords were spoken about. So vocal cords are held in the correct position and with the correct tension, so that is muscles working and participating in speech production, and the air flowing of the trachea causes them to flap open and close very quickly, up to 200 times per second. Just imagine this speed, and you can understand so, and this is only part of what we are talking about in speech production. sound production. Well, so the next it is larynx, and well, and here it is. You can see that just a moment. If you find your larynx and hum a tune, you can feel the muscles attached to the cartilage of the larynx, which allow you to produce some vibration. And when you adjust the tension of the vocal cord, then you adjust the rate of vibration and raising or lowering the pitch. So the faster the vibration, the higher the pitch of the voice. So women have a faster vibration than men, and that's why we have different voices. So other muscles allow you to draw the folds apart so that no vibration occurs. For example, the sound in English, which is denoted by letter H, so you can so feel no vibration because it's just flow of the air easy without any vibration. Okay, so when we have a look at the vocal tract in details, you can notice that just above the larynx, at the base of the tongue, is the epiglottis, a muscular structure that folds down over the larynx when you swallow to prevent food from going down into the lungs. And so when we compare things with animals, for example, we can notice that this complicated vocal tract, which human beings have, differs from that one of animals or even mammals, if we compare things. So just here it is. And mammals cannot speak, not because maybe they are not taught to, but because their vocal tract doesn't allow that maybe even speech production, yeah, such like humans do. Well, and you can see here that just larynx high up at the back of the mouth, and it is connected to nasal passages. You see, so short, or maybe we can even say that it doesn't exist in the way people, yeah, or human beings have. Yeah, for that reason, even chimpanzee, so they cannot learn talk because of absence of pharynx. Okay, so inside the mouth, we differentiate active articulators and passive articulators, the organs which participate actively and passively. So as far as you understand, the sound is produced by a huge number, by the system of organs participating, and thus given that volume of the sound, which we can characterize from different aspects. But some organs, muscles, or tissues, or different other organs inside our vocal tract, they just create some specific space, limited space within which the air, the flow of air moves. And so we have also active organs which create different obstacles, or maybe open or tensity, or the position of tongue and lips. They regulate the flow, upper, lower, middle, yeah, and for that reason we create different sounds. So what we refer to active articulators, certainly these are lips and the tongue, because they can move and so can close, open, wider, maybe narrower. These organs can create some smaller or bigger volume for a flow of the air, and passive articulators such as alveolar ridge. Here it is, you can see, yeah, behind our teeth. The post-alveolar region, the hard palate, the soft palate, here velum, and take into consideration different cavities which are created with the help of different organs or maybe this room for the air to go away through our mouth or nose. So then we can characterize each sound separately due to position of articulation. So place of articulation, participate in active and passive articulators, and different examples. Also, tongue can have some positions, as you can see here, and due to these positions, it sounds also as described in phonetics. So, sounds produced with vocal fold vibration are voiced in this respect. So when we start characteristics, characterizing and describing different sounds, well, then those which produced without vibration, they are called voiceless. And if you just try right now with your microphones off, try to pronounce the sounds z and then s, you will feel absence of vibration with the voiceless sound s. Well, then certainly when we describe articulation of each sound, we speak about vocal folds which are held apart far enough and long enough to produce an extra puff of air. In this respect, we speak about, for instance, such sounds as pop, pill, and here we speak about aspiration. And you can hold your fingertips in front of your lips and try and feel that a puff of air. And in this respect, we create this aspiration which is absent in, for instance, Ukrainian language. So I will refer today to examples from my native language, because firstly, students from Alfred Nobel University are the listeners of the course, and their language is Ukrainian, for that reason to compare things. But for the next time, for the next seminar I will write additionally, I would ask you to prepare a little bit of information on your native languages. I mean the students from other countries, from other universities. So please get ready to compare things in your native language with the English one. Okay, so and also, so the students of Alfred Nobel University, certainly you too can compare things with the languages you learn additionally. I mean, French, Spanish, Chinese, or whatever. You can also add additional information while comparing things with the English language. Well, and so if the velum is open, so that air flows into the nose, then the sound is nasal. So usually we have in both languages, Ukrainian and English, such sounds, sonorants. They're called mnng, which are pronounced through our nasal cavity. And for instance, French language is characterized by sounds, all sounds moving through nasal cavity, and for that reason that's their typical characteristic. So if the velum is closed, the sound is oral. So it's quite important to preserve in English, for instance, that difference in sounds in order to speak, to feel this specific English pronunciation. Yeah. Well, consonants and vowels, it is the next characteristic of the sound, because these sounds grouped differently, separately, because first of all, consonants, nearly all consonants are characterized by obstruction of the airflow, maybe the sound which is marked by letter H, the only one which is produced without that abstraction. So, and they are called consonants. Different ways of stopping the airflow exist, and depending on that type of abstraction, we characterize the sounds due to the place of articulation and manner of articulation. So, and when we have a look at the, again, at our organs participating in creation of different sounds, and specifically concerning the place of articulation, we can see concerning this cavity, mouth cavity, in which we move our tongue and lips to create some obstacles, and in different places these obstacles can be created with the help of the tongue: velum, palate, alveolar ridge, upper teeth, and lips participate certainly as well. Well, so mostly active organs participate, but passive, they create just this room for the flow, and due to this room which exists narrower or maybe wider, we create the quality of sound. So due to the place of articulation, the consonants in English can be bilabial, so both lips participate in labiodental, lips and teeth participate in b. You know that for pronouncing these sounds, you should bite your lip, yellow the lip for b in English to pronounce correctly. So dental, when we use teeth and tongue to create some obstacles. So alveolar ridge behind our teeth, we have some a specific place and where we form with the help of tongue and teeth, t, d, n, l, s, z in English. Well, and palatal alveolar, when both positions participate, palate and alveolar ridge, sh, z, ch, j. Well, and palatal u, it's quite soft, not the way it is in Ukrainian. Velar, k, g, ng, velar, w, because it's formed here, quite deep, but lips participating as well. Here it is, and certainly laryngeal, quite deep inside our vocal tract. So due to manner articulation, so we cannot just distinguish separately, say that some sound is formed and characterized by the place or by manner of articulation. These characteristics, they interconnected, interwoven, and certainly we have already so described a little bit that we have the position of the sound plus the room which is created for the airflow characterized. Yeah, and in this respect, we speak about voiceless, voiced, and also position labiodental, and so on and so forth. Well, and combinations of such characteristics, they can be given in different tables describing a different quantity of characteristics participating in description of the sound formation. And so, for example, articulators which participate the position, the manner, which is described, can be given in such a table, and any sound can be characterized easily by using this table. Okay, so certainly due to the manner of the sound pronounced or created, we can characterize any group of sound due to, for example, one characteristic, one parameter, or several parameters. So we can speak about stops and plosives. when we just stop the flow of air and then just give it out. And in this respect, we form p, t, k, b, d, g, m. Well, then approximate when partially abstracted as it flows through the vocal tract. W, y, r, l. So we have some maybe obstacle, but not full closing the way for the airflow. So fricatives never completely abstracted. S, z, f, w. So we have some spaces through which air goes away from the mouth, and but nevertheless some obstacle also, and for that reason we have some specific sound or characteristics of sound. Affricates. A sound begins as a plosive and ends as as affricative. For example, ch, j, and due to manner of articulation, also we have stops, we have fricatives, affricate, approximant, and so in different languages we have different number of characteristics. It depends on the vowels which participate, the consonants which characterize this or that language, or vowels. So we'll see later when compare things in English and Ukrainian and find out that Ukrainian is consonantal language and English is vowel, because more vowels exist than consonant, and in Ukrainian vice versa. Well, so vowels, it is when we have open vocal tract, so the tongue doesn't touch the upper surface of the vocal tract at any particular place. And so vowels usually are described in terms of the way in which the tongue, body, and lips move. And so usually we describe the qualitative characteristics of vowels, but in English also the quantitative as well, because we have short and long vowels. Okay, so they can be classified as due to the height of the tongue body, whether it is bunched toward the front of or back of the mouth, and whether the lips are rounded. Well, in English, we deal with a vast system of vowels because, as I mentioned already, we describe them not only due to front, central, or back position of the tongue, but also due to close, mid, or open position of mouth and lips. Well, and so thus, in this respect, we speak about different so transcription, which helps us describing vowels and consonants. So in 1888, the International Phonetic Association, that is IPA, which was abbreviation which was used in the outline to the lecture. So, and the scientists, they decided to work out some symbols for the alphabets describing different languages. So, and thus we speak about International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA, based on two principles. First, the alphabet would be universal. That is, we can describe any language, Ukrainian, English, different accent, African, because they have specific pronunciation, Chinese, Japanese, and so on. And the alphabet would be unambiguous. So one sound should refer to one symbol. In this respect, we speak about quite a vast table. It's not just all that is here it is given, but with examples in order you could get oriented and used to that table. And it looks like, as it is given here, quite different symbols are used, because so many, because each symbol, as I mentioned, has only one meaning in order not to be ambiguous. And but with that symbols, not so many, in fact. Yeah, if to take into consideration that we have over 7,000 languages in the world, living languages. Yeah, so for that reason, not that vast as I mentioned before, maybe, but quite vast if we compare things with English chart of English phonological characteristics of language. Well, here it is, maybe more familiar to you. And if you take, for example, American dictionary, you can discover that they use a little bit different. They use this international chart for describing pronunciation, and sometimes it's quite difficult to get oriented if you have forgotten the meaning of the symbol. But they have some examples illustrating this or that pronunciation of the sound, and so quite easily you can find out or refresh your memory on the meaning. So also, as I given before, starting and describing phonetics as a branch of linguistics, suprasegmentals, I mentioned in the table, which also refer to that field. And here we speak mostly about larger units than just phones and phonemes. And so the difference I will explain you a little bit later. Before that, we speak about phones only. Yeah, and when we speak about transcription, it is already about phonemes, because phone is any sound generally created not only by our speech organs. And nevertheless, even if these are the speech organs, vocal tract that participate in creating some sound, we speak about phone. But phoneme, it is about language and about our idea or about this or that sound and its meaning or its role in language functioning in speech, I mean. Okay, so then when we move further, we speak about aspects of speech. Suprasegmentals, I mean here, aspects of speech that influence stretches of sound larger than a single segment, for example, syllables, yeah? And intonation, about stress, about accent. So these are all suprasegmentals, which also participate in description, in characterizing the sound. So here it is, you can see syllable structure, because each syllable also has some characteristics, and about stress. Well, so, and also I mentioned acoustic phonetics as maybe a subsystem of phonetics. It is the field or study which helps us understand how people use sound to communicate. We understand how articulators turn air movement into sound. What happens to sound after it passes through the lips? How it travels through the air. So here, before that moment, I've described the way the airflow moves through our vocal tract. But after vocal tract, when air flows away from your mouth, leaves your mouth cavity, what happens next to that sound? So that is acoustic phonetics, and how it travels through the air. Also, how passive that flow of air, and how it impacts on the ears and the brain of those who listen. Thus, here mostly we speak about sound waves already, not about just sound. And articulation is about getting air to move and moving patterns to vibration. These are sound waves. So when the sound waves reach our ears, they set the eardrum vibrating according to the same pattern. Yeah, and to the same pattern the wave has. And inside the ear, the vibration set off and perceived by our brain as the sound. So here it is. This wave, yeah, reaches the drums, and then some vibration perceived as the signal by our brain, and the signal is interpreted as the sound. So these are the objects of acoustic phonetics, the study. So how do we measure speech? Because it's also quite important to describe something we should measure. If it is a wave, then we can measure it. So usually we use computer technologies here. Thanks God we have such possibility. We live in such a period of civilization development that we can have different tools at our disposal, and computer microphones also participating, yeah, because microphones convert the vibration to the of the membranes into vibration in electrical current, which is perceived by computer and is interpreted as frequencies, which we can see in some graphs. For instance, this phrase, not got room for. Here it is, you see the computer, yeah, perceives this vibrations, the signals, electric signals as vibrations, and depicts or interprets as some movement, yeah, some wave, and we can see it clearly with our own eyes and interpret maybe better, understand, because you know that hearing it's one thing and perceiving with our vision organs it's another thing. It has greater impact on our brain, and we understand better. For that reason, when we have some graphs, we understand better something, the way it works. So also we can measure pitch track. So that is how high or low this pitch is. And these vibrations first, then pitch vibrations, we can create spectrogram when we use one graph, then we measure the same phrase in some other respect, and we just put one graph onto another or several graphs participating, and we measure these frequencies and create some 2 or 3 most prominent frequencies which characterize one the same sound or phrase. And we call this formants because it is a complex description of one and the same phrase from different angles. And thus, we can create some person's formant structure, which is unique because everybody speaks uniquely. We have different, so generally the same vocal tracts, but nevertheless we have some individual characteristics and physiological characteristics. And in this respect, we create some unique persons formants of different structures, and it is like voice print, spectrographic voice prints, the way we have fingerprints, yeah, unique also. And we can, for example, create something like that with the help of computer and different IT technologies, which can measure in different aspects one the same phrase and create some unique spectrogram print. Okay, So every sound composed of smaller components, as you understand, yeah, from different angles when we describe the sound, then we understand that even that small unit of language consists of maybe smaller characteristics, which we should take into consideration. And by the way, phonetics is quite an interesting field of investigation, but unfortunately in Ukraine, we don't have these laboratories. We had in Kiev, not linguistic, yeah, in Kiev Linguistic University, there was a laboratory, but not that developed as it is, for instance, in London University. So they have a large laboratory studying different sound formation, creation, influence, flows, and so on and so forth. And I was lucky to be the student of the professor from Kiev Linguistic University who worked at this laboratory in London University, and while working on her thesis, and it seems to me doctoral thesis, I don't remember exactly which one, but nevertheless, well, so I I was really happy to be her student, and she gave eyes understanding that what complicated field it is, phonetics and phonology. Well, and when we speak about thus, now we come into phonology already. So phonetics as a branch which studies the way sound is produced, the way sound is perceived by our ears. So from the viewpoint of physiology, yeah, how our brain interprets, it is already phonology, because each of us has its our own image of any sound. And even if you mispronounce some sound because maybe you don't speak perfect or you don't have perfect British pronunciation, you have with some accent, yeah, while pronouncing this or that sound, but we understand it as a correct sound in our mind. We interpret it as the very concrete sound, even if it is mispronounced, or maybe some people, due to some physiological disabilities, cannot pronounce some sound, but we understand this sound because we have the image in our mind of this or that sound. And it is already about phonology and phonemes. So phoneme, it is our image, our ideal image of some concrete sound. Well, so certainly these phonemes, like sound, they can be described to one parameter or several parameters. It depends on which sound we'd like to describe or how complex we would like to describe this or that sound. And so these parameters with which we describe this or that sound, which is in our mind as an ideal one, are called distinctive features. So that's phonology. It is about turning from analyzing physical aspects of speech sound to studying their cognitive organization. So in this respect, we move from phonetics to phonology and to the theory of phonemes, morphemes, lexemes, and so on, phrasemes, textemes, and so on. Yeah, so these all emes, they are I mean the suffix which is added to each unit, phone, phoneme, lex, lexeme, phrase, phraseme, yeah. So they mean that our ideal image about some unit of language. Okay, so phonemes of all languages may be described in terms of different subsets of distinctive features. As I mentioned, that these are characteristics which we know from sound theories and sound investigations. So the ability to create some sounds. Well, phonemes and allophones. Here you can see phone, phone, but here it is phoneme. It is abstract, abstract idea about some sound, about some sound of language, can create sound. And allophones, it is the way we pronounce, we realize this sound, and everybody pronounce in his or her manner, because we have different voice pitch, different vocal vibrating system, different vocal tracts, and so on. For that reason, each ideal phoneme is pronounced individually. Well, and pairs of words that differ in only a single sound in the same position, they're called minimal pairs. That's the theory which allows us to understand the role and value of each phoneme participating in speech. For example, bit pitch. So by just one phoneme, allophone, I'm in my realization already, in my speech, the way you hear allophones because I speak, but you have some idea about p and b in your mind. These are phonemes, you see. Well, and thus when we can contrast these phonemes, they are contrastive. It means that they realize different meanings in words, within a word. So, for example, pat, bat, we understand that these are different words, but they differ just only in one phoneme. Pit, bit, cup, cub, and so on. Well, phonemes, it is already what we are dealing with, because mostly we speak here about linguistics and about the English phase of the language, yeah? Sound phase, I mean. Well, and underlying abstract mental representation, this is what we have in our mind. Our linguistic repertoire of meaningful sound we call allophones. That is my personal realization, your personal realization of one and the same sound or phoneme. So in this respect, when two sounds form minimal pairs, they are called contrastive, and they realize different phonemes. But sometimes we speak about complementary distribution. It is predictable and non-contrastive usage. Yeah, maybe just mispronunciation. For instance, some people cannot pronounce the sound r, and they substitute it with l, but it is one and the same phoneme, because in both cases, in the speech of one person and the speech of another person, they realize the same meaning, but pronounced differently. For that reason, it is one phoneme, but two allophones, you see? Okay, so for example, we have English d and v, ideal in our mind, but people sometimes mispronounce. It's quite difficult to learn to pronounce this dental v, and they just substitute with d. For instance, hither, we can say, yeah, in the word. So it can be pronounced as d, v, but realize one and the same phoneme. Or, for example, if we compare things with the Spanish, then at the allophonic level, pronouncing, yeah, English and Spanish have the same sound, but at the phonemic level, this abstract, yeah, ideal pronunciation, English has a contrast where Spanish has none. Okay, so continuing speaking and describing, just let me move further. We speak about differences in phonemic and allophonic distribution. Allophonic, yeah. Phonemic, it is ideal, I would refresh your memory. Allophonic, it is realization of some ideal sound. Okay, so sometimes for Ukrainians, it can be difficult to pronounce, unfortunately, an education. That is because of different vowel system and consonantal systems used by speakers, by native speakers. And certainly here we speak about, that is where we find this difference between phases, phonetic phases of languages. So I have several students who cannot, Ukrainian students who cannot really pronounce this word, unfortunately. Very, very difficult for them. That is because they do not have idea, they are not maybe the students of who know language quite deep, or deep enough to to pronounce all the sounds correctly. And if you don't have the idea about how the sound is pronounced, then it's really difficult for people who don't have in their native language some specific sounds to pronounce them or to learn to pronounce them well. And so they just substitute them with other allophones, but these all allophones, correct, incorrect, mispronounced, pronounced correctly, they realize one and the same phoneme. So thus phonological theory exists, which studies what is the inventory of sounds, not only English, but generally all languages in the world, and give the explanation why some sounds cannot be pronounced by other people, or why do we have so many problems and it's so difficult to learn foreign language, especially for adults. Well, because they don't have these ideas yet about the sound. And how are Russian, Ukrainian different? Certainly this theory can explain, but mostly how different can languages be? That is the main question of phonological theory. Certainly any theory, it is maybe the effort to explain in general terms something existing in the world, to answer the question why, not how, not what for, but why it is, for example, difficult, or why is it so different, and so on, trying to solve this question. Okay, so thus, when we speak about phonetic system of any language, and English as well, in our respect, it is English mostly because we have examples from the English language. We speak about phonemes because with application to language, we have some ideas about some concrete sounds of this or that language. And we speak within phonemes, two subsystems of vowels and consonants. In English, we deal with subsystems of vowels, monophthongs, short, long, and diphthongs. In Ukrainian, we don't have such a characteristic, and consonants. But consonants, we paid attention. Now we will describe in details. So when we compare things in English and Ukrainian, we can understand easily and quite quickly that languages are different, not only in grammar respect and words which differ greatly in pronunciation and sounding, but also in vowel systems. So just imagine that in English we have 20 out of 12 monophthongs, 20 vowels, 12 monophthongs, and 8 diphthongs. And just compare things with Ukrainian, only 6 vowels. So for that reason, you can make the conclusion that, English is vowel language, while Ukrainian is consonantal. So what is allomorphic here? Allomorphic, it is what differs English from Ukrainian. So the presence of diphthongs in English and the apposition of long and short vowels in English. These characteristics are absent in Ukrainian. So, and I would ask you to compare things with your native languages next time during next seminar, not today's, but next time when we come across and meet and discuss and work on different systems, and you would describe me your situation. Well, and classification of vowels can be realized due to, as I mentioned, horizontal position of the tongue. So mostly we pay attention to the tongue position within the mouth cavity. And it can be front, central, back in Ukrainian and English, but in Ukrainian central are absent, mostly front and back. And also here we speak about a vertical position, can be high, mid-open, and low variation. As you can see, different number of sounds illustrating languages. And English mostly, yeah, is characterized with these positions because, as I mentioned, 20 vowels we have in English. Okay, and so when we compare things with the consonants, again, typical features, here we should mention labialization in both languages. These are isomorphic features. Nasalization, some vowels, while creating some consonants, we move our air through nasal cavity, not mouth cavity, and we create this sound. Reduction of stressed and unstressed vowels, sorry. So in English, usually to ER, for example, Mississippi, so they will write I in each position, but we pronounce only a stressed vowel as E, rest is as schwa. Then in Ukraine, and also we have that reduction, we change the quality of the sound, for instance, ma or to be, especially in western part of Ukraine. In central part of Ukraine, mostly people pronounce correctly due to transcription. Well, and when we compare things with the consonant and in English and Ukrainian situation with the consonant, then we speak about here that in English we have 24 consonants, in Ukrainian 32. So as you can see, for that reason we characterize Ukrainian as consonantal language and English as vocal. Well, palatalization, this is when we soften some sounds, pronounce softer. So in English we have 4 such soft consonants, ch, j, sh, j. In Ukrainian mostly they are hard. And typologically distinctive feature happen to differentiate lexemes in Ukrainian. It is so it influences, yeah, the difference in meaning, while in English, no, it's just typical feature. Sin, sin, for instance, 2 different words, absolutely. So for that reason, in the Ukrainian language, palatalization performs distinctive feature of lexical meaning. Here it is just phonetical distinction. Well, and certainly here again, while characterizing consonants, we use the same aspects, parameters as I have described already earlier during the lecture. I won't repeat, you can see it on the slide and read, but just added, widened the row with the Ukrainian sound. Well, and different sonorants are also here given. Well, but I'd rather, after that classification, move to processes, phonological processes, which we come across while speaking, and which influence sound quality and maybe sound changing, deformations, yes, sound deformations. So the first one and most important is assimilation. It is a phonetic process when two adjacent consonants within a word or at word boundaries influence each other in such a way that the articulation of one sound becomes similar or even identical to the articulation of the other one. In preposition, postposition, it differs. And this respect, we have degrees of assimilation: complete, partial, and intermediate. In both languages, we can come across hoshu, so hos and shu. So just a second. Here it is just assimilates with sh, and it just sounds as one sound, sh, without s separately. In the Ukrainian, the same, bajalny. We don't pronounce separately z, j, all together as j. The next one, it is partial, when partially influences the quality of the sound. So generally, when it is used separately, it's not, for example, sonorant. Yeah, but here it is n, which is sonorant, influences w, which becomes a little bit also sonorized. Well, the next one, twice, here it is, this labialization influences the pronunciation, the quality of the sound t, which usually is not labialized. Gooseberry, b, influences s, and s pronounces z because of that voiced consonant following. So it is intermediary. So here it is, vowel, after which usually we pronounce voiced sound, should be pronounced as voiceless, but then goes again voiced consonant. For that reason, altogether from both sides, we have that influence. The same in Ukrainian, t is pronounced as d due to the same reasons. Okay, so and when we move further, we can see that these types of assimilation can also be different due to the influence of one side or another. So progressive, what becomes because of that t and s combination. Regressive, so backwards, sklubu, z becomes voiceless. Newspaper, the same, news should be pronounced, but we pronounce newspaper because of p, which is voiced. Well, and double, both side, 20, 20, 20, yeah, n, t, here it is, here and here influence spasati, the same reason. Okay, so and speaking about this assimilation, we speak about different reasons. One is historical, the influence in the course of language development. So some processes, some deformations happen because of historical facts, and contextual, so due to the situation, maybe some colloquial speech, so people not very well educated and mispronounce some sounds, and so on and so forth. So depending on individual characteristics. Well, and certainly this assimilation can be contact when we have two adjacent sounds influencing each other, or one influences the other, and distant when we have a distance, this influence. For instance, in Ukrainian, we can come across this colloquialism, желізо instead of zalizo. That is because Russian Ukrainian, they to create some mixture in our mind, and sometimes we use incorrectly, that is concretely distant and contextual influence or reasons of assimilation. So the next process, it is accommodation. It is isomorphic phenomenon, more important in English. Tall, we just pronounce as one sound, though we write two letters, realizing as if two sound. In Ukraine, sometimes we have such an idea, tonki, as if we have two sounds, yeah, some long n, as if we have two n, but we write only one. Okay, and elision, very popular in English. I think you know about that fact, that there are a lot of words due to historical aspects. We have so language is developing, but the spelling is so slow in development that preserves the features of earlier stages of the English language development. And for that reason, we have some letters which are not pronounced, silent letters: walk, knee, night, castle, and so on. In Ukrainian, also some sounds disappeared. Корисний, користь has disappeared. Сонце, compared with Russian, L has disappeared. Честь, ale чесний, and so on. Well, and for example, in rapid colloquial speech, certain notional words may lose some of their sounds. Phonetics already all disappears. Phonetics, here it is also, S can disappear. Ahenstvo, to disappears, and so on. Okay, so the omission of certain syllables is called haplology. It's a shortening of a word by omission of the repetitive sound. Not sound, but sound combinations. Just a second. Rare in English nowadays, but very common in Ukrainian. For instance, Englelond. So just not to repeat twice, familiar or similar sound combinations. England just left. But in Ukraine, mineralogia, tragikomedia, so twice koko disappears, lolo disappears one, and we leave just one. Because for Ukrainian, it's not typical to have very long words and repetitions within words. It's considered to be not so pleasant for hearing, for sounding, and for that reason, to create this melody of the language in Ukrainian, this process is very popular. So the same concerns metathesis. It is when we change the repositioning of syllables within a word. Very common for Ukrainian, especially when we compare things with Russian. Суворий, суровий, yeah, намисто, manisto should be, yeah, ведмідь, медвідь, bundar, budnar. In English, third only early stage formations of the language we can compare. Third, thrida. So here it is a change of consonant. Okay, so the next process, it is dissimilation. Common to English, present day in Ukrainian. For instance, R is changed into L, maybe in order to pronounce, to feel that melody of language or whatever, but it exists. For instance, pluralis, pluralis. We have changed. Verblud, velud should be, and litzer, ritzer. So we have changed, but it happened so long ago in the historical, it is a historical process that we do not remember, just learn as it is in our languages, in English and Ukrainian. But when you just follow the historical facts, you can see these changes and this process of dissimilation. Okay, so the next one, it is substitution that results in the use of typical or particular language instead of the resembling sound in another. For instance, thesis, not s is used, myth, not t, but f in Ukrainian language. Greek word archive in Ukrainian substitute was because it's more pleasant for hearing. And the process of epenthesis, it is the addition of an alien sound into the existing sound complex in order also to create some melody of language, to preserve the melody of language. The French word avantage, without d, is changed into advantage, so d is added, so here it is, should be omitted. Well, often or often, and in Ukrainian, pavuk instead of pauk, because it's au, it's quite difficult for pronunciation, creates some additional effort, and it is easier to pronounce when we have additional sound here. Hispania, not Hispania. Well, also for melody of language. So devoicing, in some languages it exists. Usually it's not for Ukrainian or English. We should pronounce all the sounds as they are, not making them voiceless in the end of the sentence. Did, dub, snows, winds. So we should pronounce clearly all the sounds in both languages, but sometimes in colloquial speech, yes, certainly we can devoice some sounds. And the process of prosthesis, it is mostly in Ukrainian, but also in English as well, we can come across. But in Ukrainian, to create this melody of language, we add some initial letter in order to create this easy way of pronouncing. Instead of os in English, in Russian, in Ukrainian we have additional letter and pronounce vis. Well, so in fact, we deal with different types of reduction. Yeah, so when we shorten the word and by omitting some sound, here it is, we speak about quantitative, qualitative, and zero reduction. And in this respect, we speak about different, especially in English, about different reductioned sounds when they are not stressed. Well, when we speak about the stress, we can characterize languages as well to this characteristic suprasegmental characteristics, as I mentioned, stress, tone, intonation, and so on. So we describe due to stressed, unstressed positions. It depends on covered syllable or open, yeah, covered, closed. Covered, it is when we have consonant, yeah, closed when we have consonant at the end, uncovered when we have just vowel or absence of consonant before vowel, open when we have just vowel, consonant and vowel, because at the end we don't have any consonant or two consonant and vowel. Due to this formulas, we can describe also different syllables. Yeah, it is larger units than just phonemes. Well, and a syllable in this respect can be open, covered, closed syllables, for example, yeah. And the formation and division in both languages, Ukrainian languages and English, we deal with sonorants which participate, and usually they can create, especially in songs, they create additional syllables. So in the respect of theory, general theory, they can create the separate syllable, but in practice, we do not count it as a separate syllable. Only vowels participate in creating syllables in English and in Ukrainian. Well, and word stress. Due to word stress, we can compare things and find out that English word stress is dynamic with a tonatic component. It is free, and English rhythm is stress timed, while Ukrainian word stress is dynamic with a duration component. It is also free, and Ukrainian rhythm is syllable timed. That is, yeah, how we separate speech flow into patterns. Well, when we have a look at general types of stress in all languages exist, and then we can find that we divide word stress, sentence stress, and logical stress. Sometimes we need it just to emphasize some idea or thought, or draw attention to something within the sentence. So it can be dynamic word stress, I mean quantitative, phonetic, and dependent on the place within the word. And examples of languages. So as you can see, dynamic Ukrainian and English, they go together, quantitative Greek, phonetic, you can see that we deal with here with Japanese, Chinese, Norwegian, Lithuanian. And also due to the place within the word can be stable, for instance, Czech, Hungarian, Polish, Georgian, French, or free, as in Ukrainian and English. Well, so dear students, today we have described a lot of different characteristics which influence and are taken into consideration when we speak about phonetics and phonology. Would refresh your memory that phonetics covers everything connected with the sound production and sound perception, and phonology deals with the idea, abstract understanding or interpretation of sound within our mind. Generally, we speak here about linguistics and the speech sounds, yes, and those which are produced by human beings. Well, thank you for your attention. I hope that the material was interesting and useful for you. Waiting for some characteristics and interesting facts from your native languages or from the languages you learn and can speak, and maybe some interesting examples. Well, and certainly waiting for the seminar after that lecture. We have 15-minute break, and I'm waiting for you to discuss some method of analysis existing in linguistics and generally speak about language as a system due to the previous lecture, I mean the first one. And next time we meet for the third lecture and the seminar devoted to phonology and phonetics. And if it's convenient for you, please prepare some lullabies from your language, those songs which usually mothers sing to their babies when they are small, to make them calm, to make them sleep, and so on. And we will compare things. If it is possible, just give some samples, maybe sound in video or whatever. You can share your screens and demonstrate your examples. And we will compare things. I mean, some phonetic and phonology systems and characteristics in different languages. So have a break. See you in 15 minutes for workshop. Bye.